This question is for all candidates. What will you do to address mobility issues, including traffic congestion and parking issues within the city as the influx of new residents from across the country continues to increase exponentially? And do you believe that infrastructure and mobility impact health and general well-being?
Well, traffic mobility certainly influences your mental health here in the city of Houston. It drives me crazy, and we better fill the potholes, and that's what we can begin by doing throughout the city. And I started my campaign in January talking about the need to take a more modern approach to filling potholes. Other cities have faced these same problems and have gotten on top of them, and there's no reason that we can't. I'm glad that City Hall has finally recognized that it's a crisis, but there's a lot more modern equipment out there that we can be using. But we also need to have a real public transportation plan here in the city of Houston, or we're never going to get enough cars off the roads. We can't simply build enough highways to service all the cars that are becoming here. And I want to see a real transit system, and I think bus rapid transit gives us the alternative that we need to begin serving some of these underserved corridors that we haven't been able to serve in the past, and have a real mass transit system here in the city of Houston, and that's certainly something
Mr. Bell, thank you very much.
Well, I am the current chairman of the Transportation Policy Council for the Houston-Galveston Area Council for the city of Houston. First time in 30 years we actually have a city representative doing that. I'm all for mass transit, particularly commuter rail. This is the only way we're going to get cars off the streets locally. The problem is that Metro is not perceived as a regional entity. It's perceived as a department of the city of Houston. We need to change the governance of Metro so it looks more like the Port Authority. And the other problem with Metro is, since we don't have a good internal delivery system, commuter rail will never work. So what we have to do is we have to make sure that the light rail system is effective. We have to tie it to the bus rapid transit system on Post Oak. And then we need to continue to focus on commuter rail out into the suburbs. In particular, that's what's so unique about the 98 commuter rail, because what it'll do is it'll tie into the Fannin Street system, which is already in place. So I'm encouraged about those particular activities, but we need to start doing that planning exercise now. Thank you.
I'm going to address the mobility question, but I cannot let this opportunity go without talking about these grocery stores and neighborhoods. I'm not a politician. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not. I'm an independent businessman running to serve you as your mayor. But when I hear my dear friend Sylvester Turner talk about grocery stores and neighborhoods, and he's been in elected office for 26 years, and the finest finest grocery store they have in Acres Homes is the Foodorama, it just simply is not going to be credible. In 26 years, I would think that I'd be able to bring you some quality restaurants if I represented a district. Also, I have a dear friend who talks about the budget, and we're in such an abysmal condition with the budget right now. I'm not a politician. I can't give you the double speech. I'm going to talk to you about what the facts are. Oh, mobility. When we were young, and I'm going to run out of time, so I'll come back to this question as well. But when I was young,
Mr. Hall, your time is actually up right now. Mr. King.
So there's two things about traffic that you need to understand. The first is we're never going to solve this problem. There's always going to be traffic. You go to any major city in the world, I don't care how fabulous their mass transit system is, they have traffic. All we can do is try to manage it and mitigate it. The second thing is there are no silver bullet solutions to this problem. One of the important things is managing the existing grid system we have better, synchronizing lights, making sure potholes are filled so we don't have to dodge them. But at the heart of Houston is our bus system. That's what our mass transit system is really relied on. It's still, even today, with the construction of the light rail, carries about 80% of all the passengers. It's what working Houstonians rely on to get around this town. And the truth of the matter is, for the last dozen or so years, we've been ignoring that bus service. We have completely drained it to pay for the light rail. We have substantially fewer buses in service and fewer bus riders today than we had 10 years ago. It's time that we get back and pay attention to our bus service.
I think that the first thing you need to do if you want to talk about transportation and mobility is, how about taking the bus? I and my campaign staff took a bus for about 15 days. And if I want to know how to change mobility in the city of Houston, we need to actually use the transportation system that we have. Buses work, trains work, bikes work, walking works, carpooling works. We have to have a whole-of-government approach when it comes to mobility, from getting people and goods from point A to point B. There, as Bill King said, there is no silver bullet. We've got to look at all of those things, and that's our solution, is all of it at the same time. So I want to let you know that the traffic is increasing at a rate of 6% per year, according to the Texas Department of Transportation. It's only going to get worse if we don't manage it. And what we need now is good management.
I agree with the candidates. There's nothing we can do about the traffic congestion. However, what we can do is put bus services in suburban communities. Why are not the bus services there? So I have a problem with that. But the biggest issue is the parking issues. I haven't heard any candidate elaborate on that. We're talking about hospital parking. You have family members that's dying. You have family members that's having babies. And they still have to pay for parking. And some of these people cannot even afford to pay for parking, let alone try to go up there to the elevator to see their family members. So we have a problem with that. We need to reduce the parking or eliminate parking fees for the poverty-stricken communities. So about the bus transportation, as your mayor, I will make sure buses not only throughout the city of Houston, but through the suburban area as well.
On transportation, as Vice Chair of the Appropriations Committee, we have now appropriated an additional $1.3 billion that will help to ease congestion in the Houston-Harris County area. On stalled vehicles is the greatest impediment to backed up traffic on our roads, and we need to get those vehicles off the street. On buses, light rail, we're not going to have any more anytime soon. We need more buses. We have fewer buses now than we had before. I grew up on buses. I went to school riding buses. It's not anything new. On commuter rail, the 98 line from Fort Bend, Missouri City needs to come in, and that will help out. With respect to food and stores, Ben, you're absolutely right. I was born, reared, and still live in the community which I was born and reared. I go to the same stores as the people in my district. And I shop in the same stores. I am with them. I see them every day. I live with them every day. And we've been fighting every day to make it better. I never left them, Ben. I've always been in the faux
Before we move on to the next question, I want to take a minute to acknowledge former Harris County Sheriff Adrian Garcia, also a candidate for mayor. Thank you for being here tonight. Do you want to take a stab at that question?
Thank you very much. It was nice to receive that round of applause that I was here. But listen, as it relates to mass transit, first of all, I think to some of the folks that are in the room, because my mother is also dependent on our mass transit system. First of all, Metrolift has got to work better than it's working today. Making sure that, if someone needs a last-minute doctor's appointment, needs to get to the other side of town for some event, that they don't need to be making a 3-day appointment, and people need to be treated like, folk. And so we need to make sure that Metrolift also gets a facelift when it comes to my administration. But also making sure that when we ask people to ride the bus, that it's a viable option to a car, and you shouldn't be spending half your day trying to get to the other side of town, which encourages people to get on the road.
Your time is up.
Thank you very much.
Let you know that our timekeeper is right there in the front, right in front of you. I believe you saw her, though. Our next question comes from Mr. McMillan. Mr. Rowe? Okay.
This question is for Mr. Bell and Mr. Garcia. Crime is an increasing concern for residents within areas of the district. What is your plan for effective crime reduction? Mr. Garcia and Mr. Bell.
Me to go first? All right. Well, I was as shocked as anyone months ago when I read that there were more than 20,000 crimes here in the city of Houston, crimes with actual leads that had not been investigated. And my personal belief is that we've developed an attitude here in the city of Houston that so-called minor crime really doesn't make any difference. Well, if your car gets broken into, or worse, your home gets broken into, there's absolutely nothing minor about that crime. And in my way of thinking, all crime needs to be taken seriously. All crime needs to be investigated. When there are leads, we need to catch the perpetrators and put them behind bars when appropriate. And I guarantee you, if we start taking a more serious approach to so-called minor crime, it'll start diminishing much more serious crime down the road. But if we continue to have this attitude that it doesn't matter, it's just going to continue to get worse.
Thank you. And I look at the challenges that we have with crime because there's no community that's left without respective challenges. But I believe that it's a symptom of other issues. First of all, we need to make sure that we create jobs in our community and that we're hiring people from our communities so that there is employment and there's opportunity, there's prosperity, and that there is pride in one's future. But also making sure that we support the initiatives that have happened out of City Hall, making sure that we do what we can to get things like Kush out of convenience stores, making sure that we are doing everything we can to prevent those issues from getting into the hands of our young people. But also, we have to make sure that when people make a mistake, that that there's still opportunity for people to get back on the straight and narrow. It is why I worked with the CEO of UP Rail Lines, encouraging them to take low-level offenders who have received their welding certificate and provide them a job. Today, people are getting 20-an-hour jobs after making a mistake. It's a little bit like a second chance program that Dwight has. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McMillan?
This is for all the candidates. Several years now, we've heard from candidates for mayor, Lee Brown, Bill White, and Denise Parker, who indicated they will address infrastructure needs in our area through CIP and Rebuild Houston. This has yet to occur. We are an underserved area within the district. What are your plans to work with City Council members to bring much needed infrastructure developments to the Minitex area?
One of the big problems that you have down at City Hall is from time to time people focus in on one area that's considered a little more attractive or a little sexier than the other areas. And a lot of times the attention just gets focused on maybe a downtown area, downtown redevelopment. But I think that's a big mistake, and what every mayor needs to realize is that this is a very big city and a very diverse city with a lot of diverse neighborhoods with a lot of needs, and you need to be building relationships with super neighborhood groups and civic associations, and of course making sure you're always in constant contact with Dwight Boykins to know exactly what the needs are that need to be addressed in District D. But it is, in all seriousness, it's extraordinarily important to keep the communication going and to spread the money around, and we haven't been doing a good job of that in recent years.
So, to talk about Rebuild Houston real quick, the successes, 375 projects since it was created. We have increased our investments from $100 million a year to almost $300 million a year, projected to be over $600 million a year annually in the next 15 years. What we need to do, as I said earlier, we need to focus more into the neighborhoods. We need to empower our district council members. Outside of District Council Member Boykins, who worked on Rebuild Houston, many of my colleagues don't really know the significance of Rebuild Houston. They're just happy to see their project show up on the list. We need to encourage our district council members to get more involved in the process, and that's how we'll empower them. And we need to do a better job of distributing the money across all districts so that we can show investments throughout the entire city. And then we'll do additional investments in the major thoroughfares. As I said earlier, the administration took a position back in 2010 that they were just going to invest in the major thoroughfares, and we need to change that. We need to do a revitalization of our neighborhoods.
You know, I believe that this today's audience is an opportunity to make sure that when we begin to set priorities where we're going to spend your money, that you're included in the process. That's called participatory budgeting, making sure that you help set the priorities for what should be on the CIP, making sure that those priorities meet the needs and the concerns of the community. And so, you know, when you hear neighborhoods complaining about the same thing over and over, and yet the projects are being done offline of what the community feels, then there's something greatly wrong with that. And so my administration will work very closely with council members, but I want to make sure that the people of the community are engaged in the process and are helping us set those priorities. And then lastly, making sure that when it comes to things like Rebuild Houston, that we are making sure that those projects are also being set with your input as priority projects. Thank you.
Let me start this answer by saying the following. I don't live in the faux-faux, but they deserve good grocery stores. I don't live in the Fifth Ward, but they deserve good grocery stores. I don't live in the Third Ward, but they deserve wonderful and great streets. A mayoral candidate that would just tell you where he lives and doesn't get the job done is not worthy of this office. I'm telling you as the next mayor of the city of Houston that every community in this city deserves to have good grocery stores, good streets, and good communities. That's the kind of mayor I intend to be. Now, having said that, let me answer the question of economic development in all neighborhoods. How about this idea? That if you are going to do business with the city of Houston, you've got to show us that you're hiring our children and our unemployed in the city. How about that as a policy? How about a policy where we give an advantage to businesses that are actually located in the neighborhoods that they intend to serve? How about that?
So part of the problem is a lack of transparency and knowing where the money's going. And there's a lot of levels of that need to be unwound. I think Rebuild Houston has made it significantly less transparent how the money's being spent. And I'll give you a couple, and also the TERS are another level of that. Let me give you a couple of examples. City Council just recently approved spending $120 million of property tax money to build bus rapid transit lanes to relieve congestion in the richest neighborhood in the city of Houston, which is Post Oak. Now, what could you do with $120 million in District D right now? Dwight, you got some stuff you can spend that on? There's a project to widen Gessner out on the west side from 4 lanes to 6 lanes. It's a perfectly good street. How it could possibly come up on the worst first, I have no idea. Because I promise you, I've driven streets in this neighborhood that are in a whole lot worse shape. How is it that we just approved a CIP that has $15 million?
Mr. King, thank you. Your time is up. Mr. McVeigh?
I think you get it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the question because it says that you were promised something by former mayors, and there was no delivery on it. I'm not a politician. I'm a businessman. I know what it takes to bring up a neighborhood, to bring up a state, to bring up a government. As I said earlier, 30% of the budget for infrastructure needs to come back to the neighborhoods. This is how we are able to improve your neighborhood, improve your quality of life, and bring businesses and jobs to this city. It is not acceptable in this day and age, in 2015, to continue to patch and pray. We can't do that anymore. We've got to invest in our infrastructure. We've got to invest in ourselves. And it's time that we take control of our city and take control of our future. Thank you.
Yes, we can build wealth right here in this city with over 2.2 million people here. Wealth can be started right here. So it goes back to home ownership again. It goes back to entrepreneurship. It goes back to creating jobs for our college children. It goes back to definitely rebuilding Houston and actually enforcing rebuilding Houston. But how are we going to do that? Number one, we got to get people qualified. So you just can't wake up with these academic degrees, but you're not qualified to purchase a home. You're not qualified to get a business loan. So what is my primary goal? One of my primary goals is to make sure that I actually rebuild Houston from the inside out, from the bottom to the top, and I am Demetria Smith for Houston Mayor.
A part of rebuilding any community, any neighborhood is better infrastructure, better streets, better drainage, to reduce flooding. All of that's critically important. You need a reliable and dependable funding source. I think that's critically important. You can do that. It also means that it's important to work with your city council representatives, and the super neighborhoods and the leaders in those communities, so that you can design a community with them in mind. One of the things that I think sometimes happens is we get on Bagley Street, City Hall is on Bagley Street, and they operate from there. Every now and then, if I was your mayor, I think it's about time for City Hall to go on the road. And we can have city council meetings right here in District D, where I would bring the city council folk right here so that you can look at them, and we can do it at night when you're off work, right at this time. I think it's about time to bring City Hall to the neighborhoods, especially those neighborhoods that have been ignored for a long period of time.
Questions directly from the audience. The questions that were written on this card. Instead of 1 minute to answer, because we're running out of time, we'll go with 30 seconds, and we'll start with you, Mr. Turner, and then move down that way rather than starting left to right. The first question is, are you as a candidate in favor of MWBE goals? If so, then what changes would you bring to the city of Houston? And if not, then where do you stand on business opportunity for MWBE with the city of Houston?
I do favor them. This is the most diverse city in the country. We are far more diverse than even the city of New York. I think that diversity needs to be seen in the employment workforce of the city of Houston, as well as the business opportunities that go out from the city of Houston. So I strongly support it. I just think that it needs to be enforced, and we need to hold companies who have been abusing it and acting like they can't find good, capable minority firms. We need to hold their feet to the fire.
I'm also for it. I support it, but my main concern as your mayor in 2016 is to make sure that minorities get business contracts. I think we lost focus there. Why minorities are not getting the contracts? We need to kind of look at the amendment program. We need to look at the qualification and make sure that we reach out to our minorities and give them the business contract. And I'm for mixed income. I'm for diversity as well as your mayor.
Thank you. I do support enforcement of this rule. It should be more than just a rule, but it should certainly be enforced. But we have to bring economic development to the city. We've got to bring good jobs. We've got to bring livable wages here. And the city contracting system needs to look like our city. It needs to be fair and across the board and transparent, and no backroom deals anymore. We need to break all of this up and return this city to the people.
Thank you. And for this round, a reminder, it's 30 seconds, Mr. King.
I'm in favor of MW outreach. Some of you may know that I ran for a number of years at a firm called Linebarger. And for every year I was there, we won the State Bar's award for the most MWB outreach and the most diversity in our subcontractors. And we did it, frankly, because we were required to initially in the city contracts. But what we ultimately learned, it was really good business because we found a lot of people that were anxious to work and made a big contribution. So I'm a big believer in the program.
I'm a strong supporter of the MWBE ordinance. In fact, I was the city attorney for the city of Houston who actually drafted and amended that ordinance and defended it in a court of law, so I support it. But I support it in two ways. Not simply that minorities always have to be subcontractors, but how about if we also have them as prime contractors and city contractors? I believe that we need to have a goal where minority and women-owned businesses actually participate as primes, not always as subs.
Mr. Hall was looking at my notes because I was the chair of the MWB committee on city council when I served you on city council, but I agree with exactly what he said. We want to make sure that there's opportunity for businesses who want to participate in city contracts, but I don't want any business to stay small. I want them to grow. I want them to be prime contracts. I want them to bring economic empowerment back to the community. Thank you.
I'll just describe how I handle MWBE, what I do with my own business. The last project that I got for the city of Houston as Costello Wing, my partner and firm, who had 45% of the business, was an MWBE. And when you added on the other subs that we had as part of our team, over 60% of that contract was actually other consulting firms. So I fully support the program. I think we have to have accountability, though, for companies who don't comply with our goals. And that's the challenge that we're going to have moving forward, is making sure that we hold them accountable.
Many in this room will remember 1997 when a very serious effort was mounted to do away with the city's affirmative action program. It's my first year as a member of the Houston City Council, and one of my proudest moments was standing with Mayor Bob Lanier to fight back that challenge and protecting the city's affirmative action program. If you believe, like I do, that the diversity of our city is its greatest strength, then you work to make sure that everybody has a place at the table.
And if you are elected, what, if any, changes do you think need to be made to address the City of Houston pension? Starting with Mr. Turner. 30 seconds.
Well, number one, you cannot balance a budget on the back of working men and working women. That's number one. Number two, it's just not a pension that's creating a problem. When we dealt with the employee retirement system in this legislative session, costing the state $500 million a year and unfunded liability of $7.5 billion, it was myself and two others that crafted the program that made that system actuarially sound. And as a result of that, even the employees were on board with it. There's a way to do it, but you're not going to be able to do it just by balancing the budget on the back of working men and women.
As your mayor, I would not even touch hardworking people money. Why touch it? Again, we can create wealth somewhere else. Why go after hard-earned working money for their families? Why touch their benefit? It's their benefit. They work hard for it, they earn it, let them keep it as your mayor.
This is, it's a very complex issue, pensions. But as I said earlier, when you find yourself in the hole and you want to get out, the first thing you do is stop digging. We need to bond out our liabilities, pay the debt that's owed, and make a deal moving forward, not renegotiate for the past. That's the same as going into a restaurant, eating a burger and fries, and then don't want to pay for the fries because it didn't taste good. We're not going to do that to the people of this city.
Your time is up. Thank you.
Well, I had more, but that's a... It was funny. It was funny.
Well, as most of you know, I've written about this topic very extensively in my Chronicle column. I too do not favor taking away benefits that have currently been earned. A deal's a deal, and we've got to honor those promises. But if we continue to make these promises to future employees, it will undermine the stability of the City of Houston's finances and of the pension plans themselves. By 2020, it will take 50% of all the property taxes that we pay just to fund the pensions. That is not a sustainable system.
This is one of the more difficult issues that the next mayor will have to deal with. There are 4 solutions to address it. One is to tie the risk to market performance. Right now we don't. The city is acting as an insurer of the benefits. Number 2 is to adopt a defined contribution plan where we know that our fixed contributions are what they are. Number 3 is to reassess TERS and the monies that are being trapped over in TERS right now as opposed to being distributed among the city. And then when death is a part of your resume, we are not going to take away the benefits of city employees.
Mr. Garcia.
As the only retiree on this panel, I want to make sure that I don't get my next pension check that says, please don't deposit for another 90 days. And so we have to make sure to make tough decisions, to work with our employees, to make sure that their pension accounts are sound. But it is going to require tough decisions. The questions earlier about infrastructure and other things that the community is needing, it's all tied together. And so we have to be able to create a conversation at the table that encourages everyone to participate in the process.
Councilmember Costello.
Thank you. We need local control of our pension systems. We are the employer. We should define the benefit package. Today, for every dollar you spend, we spend 31 cents in pensions. In 15 years, for every dollar that we spend in salary costs, we're going to spend $1 in pension systems. So your entire tax bill, if we do nothing, will pay for pensions only. That's not an option. We have to make hard decisions. Hard decisions require leadership, and I'm the person that I believe that needs to get that done, not the people in Austin.
Well, we all want to make sure that Adrian can stay retired, that's for sure. Let me tell you what I find very disingenuous is trying to lead people to believe that as mayor you can simply step into that office and cram a solution down the throats of the firefighters. You can't. You don't have that power. It rests in Austin. And so what you better be prepared to do is employ a large degree of diplomacy and try to work with the firefighters to find a solution going forward.
Okay, the next question, we're going to start with Mr. Hall and then move to your right and then pick it up with Mr. Bell at the end. The question is, can we have restrictions for the development of low-income housing projects within a certain mile radius of other low-income housing projects, particularly in predominantly African-American neighborhoods?
The answer is yes, we can, and the way that we protect it, in fact, this is one of the great concerns that I have, where I look at 3rd Ward, 5th Ward, and I see these new developments going in next to native homes, and people are being priced out of their ability to pay their taxes. I am not the mayor that's going to see the native population driven out because of new development. I applaud the new development, but we need to give tax advantages and tax moratoriums on individuals who are already in their homes so that they can stay there and not be forced out because of the new development.
I think the question is whether we have too many low-income housing projects in the same area. And certainly that is a problem with that. Homeless shelters, they tend to be concentrated in certain areas of town, as you well know. I think that there's a new model, and there's a project out off of Gulfton where it's a mixed income, where it's not just low income, but they're also market rate, and that helps for grocery stores and restaurants and all those. I think we need to start looking at that model as opposed to cramming all the poor people into one apartment project.
I think that certainly the city needs a plan, and I think the way to describe how the city is operating on this issue alone, it's maximum randomness. There is no plan. Industrial goes up next to residential. Residential goes up next to retail. The city has no plan. We need to look at groups like Blueprint Houston to get a sensible plan that keeps us moving forward and doesn't hinder our future economic development.
I'm also for the mixed income also, but it goes back to qualification. So we still need to build a credit qualification program and just let's dismiss everybody bad credit if we can. Can we lobby a bill to do that so we can get people qualified in the mixed income? Because you know if they don't have the education, they don't have the income. So let's be real with these people here. So if you do not have the education, you will not have the income. You don't have the credit, you will be pushed up out of Houston, not just out your district.
Many of the communities that were cited in the question need more single-family homes. We need more affordable housing within our communities. Not necessarily multifamily. People need more homes in these communities. A lot of these communities feel saturated with multifamily homes. And when that ends up happening, it turns and tips the character in these particular neighborhoods. What we have done in many ways is that we placed a moratorium on some of these multifamily homes, and we've encouraged more affordable housing being built in these neighborhoods.
Thank you.
When you look at a map of Houston, what you see is economic disparity, but what you also see is geographic inequality. It is a major problem here in the city of Houston, but instead of just seeing a problem, I see opportunity, because in a lot of those areas that are greatly underserved right now, there is opportunity with some incentives provided by the city of Houston to have that kind of mixed-use development and that kind of mixed level of income development where you can see more low-income housing in those areas, and that's certainly something I would want to work toward as mayor.
Well, over half the city, over half our residents actually live in apartments. So we're always going to have apartments here in the city. What we need to do is focus on market, mixed-use types of development, not just simply low-income housing. Because it is true that low-income housing has been concentrated in areas. And the city needs to do a better job of working with the developers and giving incentives to encourage them to do a mixed-use type of development so that we can encourage other economic development associated with those projects.
We have 1,000 lots, abandoned lots, that are not being productive. We need to put those large lots to work, get them, encourage development to take place. A lot of those lots are in this community. And I think people would want the opportunity to step into an affordable housing, respectful housing system or environment that isn't necessarily an apartment complex. But we also have to make sure that we create economic opportunities within our community so that people who may be on low income can lift themselves up and step into something much more respectful.
This next question also, we're going to try to do two more, even though we're coming up close to 8 o'clock, but we're going to try to get in a few more audience questions. This is the next question for everyone, starting with Mr. King. What is the most pressing problem, the one problem you feel needs to be addressed either in the city of Houston or just here in District D? Just one problem, how would you solve it?
We got to fix these potholes. This is embarrassing, people. I mean, we cannot be a world-class city with third world country streets. Every single campaign I stop, somebody gets up and talks about blowing out a tire or bending a rim. And you know, for some of us, it's an inconvenience. But if you're some of our folks that are just barely getting by, that are working these minimum wage jobs, working in fast food, if they blow out their tires, it's not an inconvenience, it's a financial crisis.
Time is up, thank you. Mr. McGregor.
Thank you. I think that the key issue, the key problem that we have in the city of Houston, it's management. And second, followed by leadership. We don't have it. The city just has operated on decades of bad policies that they continue to build upon, and nothing gets better. We're not going to be able to grow efficiently. We're not going to be able to balance our budget. We're not going to be able to be a leading economy in this century until we take control of our government. The government needs to work for you. It needs to be...
Time is up.
Okay. There's more to come.
I believe here the key issue is, we have enough evictions going on here in the city of Houston. We have a lot of landlords discriminating against people because they have housing vouchers or because they don't have the income. So what we need to do here in Houston is actually work with the stakeholders and eliminate homelessness. How do we have people stacking up on top of people because they get evicted and sitting on their credit for years and they do not have the job to combat that? So my job as your mayor is to meet with every stakeholder and let's come up with an initiative plan to make sure we keep people in our homes.
Infrastructure is a critical component. This is a growing, vibrant city, but at the same time, the infrastructure has to keep up with that growth. And when I talk about infrastructure, we're talking about transportation. We're talking about streets. We're talking about mobility, being able to get people from point A to point B. And that's for all of our communities and not just some of them. There are people who need to get to the medical center. There are people who need to get to their jobs. And that won't take place unless you have a strong infrastructure that keeps up with the growth and development of the city.
A couple of weeks after my campaign announcement, a friend came up to me and said, "Thank you for making this campaign all about potholes." I told him, just wait till we start talking about asphalt overlay. Then you'll really be staying up late at night. It is important. It's a very serious issue, but it's more than just potholes. It's about how we manage traffic here in the city of Houston. And it would be very disingenuous for me to talk about trying to build the most modern city in the entire country without also talking about a true mass transit public transportation system. And it's something we definitely need to work toward here in Houston.
A short-term solution, we already have the money set aside for infrastructure, and we'll see those fruition come in the next few out years. We have neighborhoods that don't believe they're safe. We need more cops on the street. We need 2 cops to a car. We need more investment in our police officers. We have to modify the city's financial situation so that we can get more police and get our community safe, because without a community that's safe, you do not have a community.
When I hear the reaction on some of the questions related to District D and related to concerns of disparity or inequality, it's the reason why I made the theme of my campaign One Houston. I want to make sure whether it's District D or another part of town that everybody is going to feel respected, that we're going to create as much as we can of equal investment in every neighborhood, and that we're going to include everyone in the process that provides a bright picture and a bright future for the city, including our children, including people who have yet to be born. So it's all about One Houston.
The greatest problem in the city of Houston are politicians. They make a lot of promises and do nothing when they get in office. What we need on city council and in the mayor is somebody with a servant's heart. You get elected because you want to do something as opposed to just hold an office. As your mayor, I have a servant's heart. When I see this community, I believe it deserves the very best representation.
Okay, at this time, we're going to give the candidates each an opportunity to make a 2-minute closing statement. Before we do that, I just want to quickly acknowledge 2 other candidates who are here. Houston Community Trustee and candidate, Chris Oliver, candidate for Houston City Council, Mr. Garcia, and then we'll go left and come back around to this table.
Thank you very much. You know, the campaign has been exciting. It's created a lot of opportunities to engage people from all over the city. But as a native-born Houstonian, growing up in this community, I sometimes look around and see neighborhoods that feel like they've stood still. Not getting any investment, not getting any attention unless it's by patrol car because a crime has occurred. But yet there are bright faces in these neighborhoods, young people who are born with a promise. And all they need is someone to clear the path and provide them that support and that encouragement. And that, as I mentioned earlier, the theme of my campaign is One Houston. It's about making sure that every neighborhood, every community is respected, supported, honored, held up, and provided for. But making sure that that's not just something that someone's been told what's going to be done, but rather engaging the public, engaging the community, so that you can help set priorities. Because I think you understand how tough it is to try to find how to use all the dollars all over the city. But when you get engaged, you help to put value where those concerns and those issues are at. And I think at the end of the day, that's all you want, is to make sure that you are respected, that you're part of the process, and that you're heard. And so, as your mayor, I've done that. 35 years of public service, working with every community in the city. I rarely have to go anywhere to be introduced for the first time. And it's because I care about people, I care about their lives, I care about their communities. And I'm Adrian Garcia, and I'm asking for your permission to serve as mayor of Houston. Thank you.
My wife of 40 years and I came here in 1977. She was 6 months pregnant with her mother's first grandchild, and we came to this area as 2 young kids. Fast forward to 1991, I was a co-founder of an engineering company that's been recognized 5 times by the Houston Business Journal as the best place to work in the city of Houston. And that's based on a blind employee survey that we're really proud of. We're known as a firm that can get infrastructure built on time and budget. And I'm also an at-large council member. And I've been your council member for the last 5+ years. And I'm also the budget chairman. And I was chosen by the mayor to be the budget chairman because of my business background. I'm working to improve public safety for our community. I'm working to improve public infrastructure for our community. And I'm working to improve the finances of the city so that we can get more cops on the street, we can get the equipment they need, including body cameras, so that we can have a safe community. I don't have a campaign slogan, and people call me a policy wonk, someone who really focuses on just problem solving. Well, that's the engineer in me, and I'm sort of proud of that. And I will continue to be that way. Because what I believe is what you're going to get with Steve Costello as your next mayor, is you're going to get a businessman who has proven that he takes care of his employees. You're going to get a businessman that has successfully grown a business and provided jobs for the community. And you're going to get a grandfather who understands that the decisions that he's going to make for this community are going to benefit not only us today, but our kids and our grandkids. But most of all, what you're going to get is you're going to get someone who came from Long Island to this great city and has been very blessed by the successes of this city. And it's my time to give back to the community. I'm Stephen Costello, and I respectfully ask for your support as your next mayor of the city of Houston. Thank you.
I I'm Chris Bell, and I would like to be your next mayor. As a former at-large member of the Houston City Council and a former member of the United States Congress, I decided to get back in the public arena because I believe that Houston is perfectly positioned to move to what I call the next level, to not only be the fourth largest city, but to actually start acting like the fourth largest city. In this day and age, that means a willingness to fully embrace the amazing advancements that we've seen in technology. Cities like New York and Boston and Chicago that are doing that are finding that they can give neighborhoods and communities problem-solving ability that would have been absolutely unimaginable just 20 years ago. But in talking about being a truly modern city, it's not just about technology and computers. Modern cities also look for ways to lift their people up, and that's why a few moments ago I talked about the economic disparity in our city. It's a very serious problem, and we are fast becoming a city of haves versus have-nots here in Houston. When you look at the map, close to 40% of our citizens are living at or below the poverty level. That's not what a modern city looks like. And at City Hall, we have to concentrate on that and look for ways to create opportunity in neighborhoods throughout Houston. That's why I talk about transit, because it's hard for someone to hold a job if they can't get to the job. That's why we need a modern transportation system here in the city of Houston. During this campaign, you're going to hear a lot of people who are very concentrated on the word no. I'm very concentrated on the word yes. And I know full well that we're not going to be able to accomplish everything that we want, but we have to be willing to dream. And if we're willing to dream, we can go places that we never imagined. Let's make it happen, and thank you so much for letting me be here with you this evening.
I'm Sylvester Turner. I was born and reared in this city. Neither one of my parents graduated from high school, but let me quickly tell you they did an outstanding job in rearing 9 kids. As a little kid, I would take the scooter wood, what we call fofo, and would go downtown, and I would walk up and down Main Street, Louisiana, and Travis. And as a kid, I would look at those buildings, and I said, one of these days, I want to be office in one of those buildings. That was my way of escaping, so to speak. And that was my vacation, taking the bus, going downtown, looking at those buildings, and saying, one day I want to be in those buildings. I've been blessed. Later on down the road, I had an opportunity to be in those buildings. And for the last 32 years, the law firm that I founded, and I'm a partner, have been in one of those buildings. This is a city where dreams can come true. For the last 32 years, my law firm has been downtown. For 17 years, I taught law school at Thurgood Marshall. For 26 years, I've been in the legislature. For 21 of those 26 years, I've served on the Appropriations Committee. I am now vice chair of the Appropriations Committee in a house that's controlled by Democrats. God's blessed me. I look at this city. I've seen this city. I understand what's happening in Sunnyside and South Park, 5th Ward and Acres Home, and how Freemanstown had become 4th Ward and now Midtown. I don't want that to happen in other parts of this community. Yes, it is a tale of two cities, and there are a lot of people who are doing well, but 24% of the people in this city are working poor. 29% of them can't provide insurance. Many of them are looking for jobs. A lot of people are coming out of prison, coming back into these neighborhoods. They're looking for housing, they're looking for job opportunities. A lot of our kids have lost hope. They're frustrated, and they need somebody fighting and advocating for them. I'm not running for myself, but I've been blessed. And the good book says, to him to whom much has been given, much is required. I hope you will look at me. I'm filling out the application. I want to be your mayor, and I hope you will hire me.
I'm sorry. I have to get a little close to Houston since Houston really don't know Demetrius Smith, right? So I can take my little 2 minutes. I'm going to utilize this 2 minutes. I understand the potholes that we're talking about. I understand the potholes in the streets. I understand the infrastructure. But where are the potholes being fixed at? Where are we building infrastructure? Now let's talk about the real potholes. Let's talk about potholes in human lives. Let's talk about stamping out poverty. Let's talk about eliminating mass incarceration. Let's talk about holding elected officials accountable. Now you said you want to hold them accountable for what? For their plans, for their promise, or do you want to hold them accountable for your constitutional rights? Do you want to hold them accountable for what's in the good book Because if you build people up, if you create the wealth here in this city, the potholes in the streets will automatically be fixed. Infrastructure will automatically be built. So let's get real with Houston. Yes, we have a chance. And yes, we will. And yes, we will do this. And we will stand as a united Houston. Just like I've been deprived from being in all these races and forums and debates, you've been deprived too. Just like I've been left out, you've been left out too. So don't let nobody fool you here just to get your votes. Now, I'm going to cut it to the 99%. 1% just like the Turner said, to whom much is given, much is required. So let's take all the 1% and let's give back to the 99%. I'm not asking for your vote. However, if you study me, then you vote for me. I am Demetrius Smith.
Mr. McVeigh, let me move on to the next candidate.
Is Bill King next? I know we've gone on too long because my friend Bert Levine's almost asleep, so we're gonna wrap this up quick. But you know, you don't know me yet, and I'm the outsider. I'm the new guy, and I want to earn your vote, and I want to tell you about me. And as this campaign really gets going, coming up next month, then you'll get to know about me, and you'll get to know about plans that I have for the city that include you. And I want to make sure that I get up every day and making sure that I'm not just thinking about the next 6 years, but I'm thinking about the next 60 years. I'm not concerned about re-elections. I'm not concerned about paying back any political favors. I'm concerned about you. And when I came to this church today, I see a sign there that says, reaching the world through the love of God. And that's why I'm here. I'm giving up a private life to give my life to you and to be in the service of the people of this city. The people of this city have given me everything that I've got. All the opportunities that I've ever had in my life came from this city. And opportunity brought me here, and it's opportunity that can take good people away. And I want to make sure that everybody has the same opportunities that I had when I came to this great city. And that doesn't happen just because overnight, or it doesn't happen because we can pray about it. The Lord put a brain in our head and a mind to create, and that's what we're charged to do. I will always get up every day for the next 25 years because I'm 41, and you're going to see me, and I'm going to be in your neighborhoods, I'm going to walk your streets, and I'm going to earn your vote, and come next 2016, you're going to have a mayor that will represent you.
Time is up, Mr. McVeigh.
I got to tell you, I frankly was a little nervous about coming here tonight. I just didn't know whether it was such a good idea to be in church with so many politicians in one place. I was worried the good Lord might say, I got them all there in one spot, I'll take care of this in one shot. Listen, Ben's right, politicians are the problem. When you've got city officials that are collecting $1 billion more from you than they were 5 years ago, and tell you they don't have the money to fix streets without raising taxes again, when they're collecting $1 billion more from you, and yet we've got 300 fewer police officers on the street than we had 10 years ago, when they're collecting $1 billion more from you, and they're only solving 8% of the burglaries that are committed in this city? Do you know that we have something like 9,000 abandoned buildings in this city that need to be torn down? It would cost something like $50 to $75 million to tear all those houses down. The city hasn't done it because they tell you that they don't have enough money to do that. Yet they found $120 million of property tax money to build a bus lane in the richest neighborhood in this city. Now, I'm going to suggest to you that maybe tearing down those houses, getting those drug dealers and homeless people out of the neighborhoods where those things exist, maybe that would have been a better use of that $120 million the city council decided they were going to spend it on building bus lanes in the richest neighborhood in this city. We organize city government for some pretty limited purposes. As provide infrastructure, so we have streets, water and sewer service, public safety, these basic things, and we've gotten away from that mandate. It's time that we fix the streets, catch the crooks, balance the budget. Let's get the city of Houston back to basics.
First of all, I want to thank Mary Benton for the job that she's done this evening. Thank you so much, Mary. I want to thank Dwight Boykins for having the vision to have this year. And I'd like to thank the panelists for the very thoughtful questions that you asked. Thank you very much. Bill, I did not have any fear coming in the house of God because I heard that I was glad when they said unto me, let us go into the house of the Lord. So you're protected here, Bill. I said to you that the greatest danger and problem in Houston were politicians. And it is. During the course of even this mayoral run, I've attended meetings where $11 billion worth of new roads were coming into the city. We all have attended that. And I sat there and I asked the question, when are any of these coming in black and brown neighborhoods? None of them is coming in this neighborhood. None. And I told them I cannot support that. Over in the Galleria, right now the $120 million bus line, I asked the question, how are minority people going to get to use these buses? The response was, they don't come here. That's unacceptable. Those are your tax dollars being spent for that bus line, and you are not expected to use them. Now, you may ask the question, Ben Hall, what have you done for the city of Houston? How do we show your servant heart? When KCOH radio station was about to collapse financially, my wife and I stepped up and purchased it. When MLK put the statue in McGregor Park, no politician would ever step forward to have it look like Martin Luther King. My wife and I bought that statue for the city of Houston so it looked like Martin Luther King. The slave bricks over in 4th Ward that the city of Houston was about to tear up.
Your time is up. Your 2 minutes are up.
Sorry about that. God bless you.